The apricots were coming off the trees, when I first arrived in Sedona. It was just one more magical confirmation that I had found the place I was looking for. I'd been looking for a home for myself. I was in my 20s, I had graduated from college, from grad school, traveled around, and was using my mom's home as my stopping point in between back in Indiana, and I'd outgrown that. And when I found Sedona, I knew right away that this was it. Sedona had me at hello. The apricots were really just dessert on this otherwise perfect place. And one of the things that made it so magically perfect for me was that I had followed my own sense of intuition to get there. I had trusted myself. And that makes a victory so much sweeter when you've overcome obstacles and you've done what people think is crazy or said no to the naysayers. It makes those victories so much sweeter. So today I want to talk to you about some lessons that I've learned when it comes to self-trust and some of the sweet victories that come from trusting yourself. The first lesson is to do what's right for you. We are taught from a really young age, from birth really, to put our trust in other people. And trust can be a good thing. But when it comes to knowing what's right for you, you can't really trust that other people can tell you that. That's an inside job. You have to trust yourself. And doing what's right for you often bucks the system. So I can tell you a story in my life. When I was going through school, I was always a very good girl, did good in school, got good grades, did what I was supposed to. And then there was this time, this sort of fictional abstract time called when you graduate. And I never really knew what I was going to do when I graduated. But there were lots of people that had ideas about what I should do when I graduate. My parents, of course, wanted me to put that education to good use and find a good job. Society wanted pretty much the same thing. Get a job, get married, have a family, do the standard traditional things. But I felt something different inside of me. And I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what it was. But I felt that I needed to just follow that. What's right for me? Well, what ended up being right for me was traveling. When I finished school, I jumped in my car and took off and started traveling. And it was great. I have wonderful memories from those times. It gave me exactly what I needed at that time in my life. And it allowed me to move on and eventually do the things that society sort of expects and that were right for me at the time when they were right for me. So doing what's right for you means knowing what's right for you and kind of saying, be quiet, naysayers, I don't need to hear it. The second lesson that I want to share with you about trusting yourself is to make your own decisions. Make your own decisions. That's something that I believe as a woman, and I'm not speaking for all women, but I think a lot of times women tend to listen to the people around them a little bit too much, to solicit advice or opinions. What do you think? Should I get the clogs or should I buy the Skechers or whatever the case may be? There's no shortage of times in my life when I've done that. But really, when you trust yourself, you are trusting your own gut, right? Your own sense of intuition, following your heart, listening to your gut. There's a lot of ways to describe this process, but it all boils down to what's happening inside of me. So for example, when I made it to Sedona, I opened up with the story about when I arrived in Sedona. Before I got there, I was traveling. I had come back from several months of being abroad in South America, and I was looking for where I wanted to settle down. So I was traveling around the Southwest looking for the right spot. And I was staying in youth hostels at the time. And in one of the youth hostels that I was staying at, I believe it was in Taos, New Mexico, there was a board, and on the board were flyers for regional things, one of which was Hostel Sedona. And I saw this flyer, and something in me said, yeah, go there. And so that's exactly what I ended up doing. It wasn't a beeline. I had some other things I had to do, friends to see. But I eventually went to Sedona. I followed that intuition. I was traveling with someone at the time. And I remember intentionally deciding not to share that plan with my friend. I wanted to keep it to myself. I was going to drop my friend off, and then, he was going his way, I was going mine. I didn't want to hear anything about my plan. It was mine, right? It was my intuition. It was my path. It was mine to follow. And for whatever reason, that was the right thing for me to do. I ended up in a place that is my home. The third lesson that I want to share with you about trusting yourself is to be a good steward to yourself. Nobody's going to do this for you. And being a good steward to yourself means giving yourself what you need, making sure you're safe, making sure your needs are met, but also standing up for yourself, knowing what your feelings are and expressing them. And if somebody tries to get in your face or in some way put you down or assault you in some way, stand up for yourself, fight for yourself. It's almost as if the self, when I say trust yourself, is this little flame burning within. And it's our responsibility to keep it burning. Even though the world out there blows winds that'll try to blow it out or throws water on it, it's our responsibility to keep our own little flame burning so that we can be good stewards to ourselves and trust ourselves. So I'll just close with one story that I like because there's a happy ending. Sometimes we trust ourselves and it doesn't go so well, but it's sweet when it does. I was on a hike when I first moved to Page, Arizona. I accepted a job. I met some friends. We went on a hike. And I hadn't been hiking there before. And it turns out the guy in charge of this hike was a search and rescue guy. And his idea of a hike was really a military march. It was way out of my comfort zone. I like to enjoy and take time. I hike, I'm not a lollygagger, but I like to enjoy nature. And this guy was just about the walk. And so the part of me that wanted to, prove that I can do this or be the people pleaser, was there. But at some point I said, you know what, guys, you go ahead. I'm going to stop right here, hang out on these beautiful rocks. You go right ahead. And I did that. They went on. They had to come back to pick me up on the way back. On those rocks, I had one of the most amazing experiences of my life. It was one of these days in the desert where the winds are just all over the place. No big wind. It was lots of little winds. And these rocks were like, lots of little rocks, this little outcropping. And I turned to look, and there, like as close as the wall to me, was a bobcat looking right at me. It's like we both just sort of popped up at this exact moment. And I guess because of the wind, he couldn't smell me. And I had this magical connection with this bobcat. And then as soon as I looked away, it was gone. It was just this brief glimpse of a bobcat. But if I hadn't trusted myself to say, no, this hike is wrong for me, you guys go, I need to do something else, I would not have had that experience. And I for sure would not remember the Death March hike that I had been on. But now it's a lifelong memory with this sweet experience. So trust yourself. Thank you.